Nice to meet you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I hope so. I think it's more the other way around, but I guess we'll find out. Do you want to give a little intro to me and to the audience about what you're doing or what your past is? Who are you really?
Oh, I'm an engineer. Originally, I'm a civil engineer.
Okay.
But since about 30 years now, I'm working in robotics.
Mm-hmm.
First, I've been working in research in a big research institute in France called the CEA, French Atomic Energy Commission.
Okay.
And we used to make robots to go in where the man cannot go, inside nuclear plants and manipulate other, dirty things.
Yeah.
But one other application we had was how we can use these robots to help handicapped people. Because in a way, for handicapped people, they cannot manipulate things, not because they are dangerous, but because they can't. Mm-hmm. So robots can be an assistant for them to go to manipulate the real world in which we're living. And then 10 years ago, I moved from research to industry, and I joined the company, the French company Aldebaran. At that time, it was called Aldebaran. And this company designed a little robot, now, humanoid robot. And I went there to develop a new prototype, a research project called Romeo, to develop a tall humanoid robot to assist elderly people. Mm-hmm. And then, since then, and in 2012, we have been contacted by SoftBank, a huge mobile phone company, who wanted to develop its own robot. And then they asked us to develop the Pepper robot that is maybe known, I don't know how famous it is here. And then today, Pepper and now are our two main products.
Mm. Okay, so who's your favorite then, between the two?
My favorite is Romeo, the third one. That is a research prototype, but okay, because it was my project.
Yeah, yeah.
But today, to be completely honest, I checked that there is no one from my company. My favorite is now, the little one, because it's a two-legged robot, very cute, and when he falls down, he's able to stand up by itself, and it's really a cute robot.
Okay, so for you, there really is like an emotion. You have an emotional attachment to your work, in a sense.
Exactly, yeah. And the point of these robots, this new kind of robot, companion robots, are dealing with this emotional relationship. They are not useful robots, I have to say. Unfortunately, today they're not so useful, but they are so nice that you want to interact with them, and they are real companion robots. And it's a brand new relationship that you develop with robot. And today, I was discussing that with a researcher. Maybe 10 or 15 years ago, when you went to a robotic conference, it was mainly about mechanics, control, trajectory generation. And today, it's a lot about human-robot interaction, affective computing, and this kind of things. So really, the focus of robotics has I would not change because many people are still working on mechanics and it's important. But also now we are a big community in robotics working on affective computing, man-machine interaction, very, very new.
Okay. We had a discussion prior to the show so that I had some idea what Rodolphe would want to talk about. But one thing that was really interesting to me is whether it's you or SoftBank or however we ask the question, what is the mission, really? What are you striving towards with now and with...
It was when we... Originally, when Bruno Maisonnier, the founder of Aldebaran, created the company, he said, okay, the technology is ready. People are expecting humanoid robot at home, like in movies, like in science fiction movie. And he said, I'm sure technology is ready. So he decided to manufacture these little robots as a companion at home to bring assistance, pleasure, fun to people. And when SoftBank came to us, we were not sure about exactly what their vision was. Mm-hmm. Is it really robots to make fun, to make people happy? And it happens that the founder of SoftBank, Masayoshi Son, is really convinced that robot could bring, let's be a little bit, the robots can benefit humanity.
Yeah.
Its position is robots are here to help people to live and to make people more happy in their life. So that's why we were so happy to meet this huge company, because they not only bring money to us, but they also bring the same kind of vision that we have, that robots are here to help us in our everyday life.
Huh. And for you then, in the context of what you said before, it's not so much about helping in the sense of picking up heavy objects and putting them down again, but maybe there's an emotional benefit again. Yeah.
Exactly. And today, if you consider the market that we are able to address today, because of course, if you ask people, why do you want a robot for? They could say, okay, I want the robot to wash the dishes, to put the trash away, and so, of course, we cannot do that today. It's so too much more too complicated. But what we can do today is, for instance, having robots helping children in classrooms. We can have robots assisting people in public places, in the airport when you're lost. Okay, then the robot can tell you, okay, this is your transfer, and you should go that way, let me go with you. This kind of very simple things could be done today by a robot. And what we have in mind too is to have someday the robot able, and in very short future, the robot able to assist elderly people at home, because there are so many things that you can do. And as you said, of course, the first way we discussed with elderly people or with the doctor that working with them, as an engineer, I say, okay, you will be happy because my robot will bring you the bottle of water that you forgot in the other room and you cannot get out of your bed by yourself. And then the robot will go grasp the bottle and bring it back. Okay, that's nice. But my real problem is I'm afraid when I'm alone. And because for them, the most important point is security. When elderly people losing their autonomy are at home by themselves, they're afraid of falling down, to be alone. They're afraid of forgetting to take their medicine. They're afraid of forgetting to call someone. They're afraid of being alone. And then the robot can be a solution for this. The robot can remind plenty of things. It can discuss with the person that are completely alone. It can be a cognitive support, and more than a physical support, as you said, a cognitive support, and maybe an affective support.
Yeah.
It's pretty difficult to mention this because some people say, but it's awful if you say that your best friend is a robot. What does it mean for the humanity if you don't have a friend anymore? Your best friend is a robot. And I've watched the movie Her, you see, and in a way, it's a kind of scary to think that, okay, the best, I don't know if you have all seen this robot, this movie in which the human guy is falling in love with an OS, speaking with the voice of Scarlett Johansson, so he helps to fall in love. Yeah. And in a way, it's awful when you see this. It's a very good movie, so you understand why he's falling in love. But you say, oh, but is it really the life we want? That's why we understand that it's important that the robot make emotional connection with the people, because we don't want that people consider the robot as a pure object, but as an object that takes care of them. And for this, using emotional is very important.
Yeah, I think it's a powerful line when you say people are, especially elderly people, these kind of people in the most vulnerable spectrums of society are like, it's a powerful thing to say that they're afraid of being alone, and that somehow this is an application that could help solve that problem. Which is really
I've discussed with a company with this company is bringing a service to elderly people.
Yeah.
They are just answering the phone. That's the only way. Often, sometimes it's because there is an emergency, so they call the police or the ambulance and so on. But generally, it's just because people want to talk to someone.
Yeah.
So they are paid to answer the phone and have a maybe 5-minute discussion, and then they hang up, and people are happy. And this guy told me that in France, and I guess it's the same in many Western countries, 900,000 people haven't spoken to anyone since 1 month.
Wow.
It's incredible. So you can imagine the loneliness of these people if you don't speak to anyone during 1 month, except to your TV set.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's not such a leap to think that we could fall in love, or maybe love is the wrong word, but have this kind of compassion for a non-humanoid thing when we fall in love with pets, and we fall in love with characters in movies, and robot characters in movies, and
yes, but
everybody loves R2-D2's little boop, boop, boop thing,
yes. But you can fall in love with your car, with your mobile phone, with your... And we had the story of... in army, they have these demining robots. The robots that are just teleoperated on caterpillars. Very simple robots that are used for demining. And some soldiers, in a way, are very attached to their robots. And it's sometimes the robot explodes on a mine. So the robot is completely broken. And then the robot is changed, and people don't want a new robot. They want their robot, but repaired.
Yeah.
And same thing happened with the vacuum cleaner, you know, the Roomba robots.
Yeah.
When the Roomba robot is broken, you send in for repair, and when it comes back, it's not the same. And people say, but it's not my robot. I want my robot. And often they give a name to their robot. So people are really keen to be attached to, I would say, anything.
Yeah.
That's part of our humanity, in a way, I think.
Huh. This is a really interesting topic, actually. One thing that you mentioned that you'd like to talk about are applications, and that was one of them, helping the elderly. You mentioned education briefly too. Is there like a specific application of robots or this direction helping education that's interesting to you or that's really exciting?
Yes, so education at the very beginning when we started to think about education, because when we understood that a robot cannot be a real companion at home, because something we should all realize, we should know, be agreeing is, you know, a robot today is like a mobile phone. It means it needs application. If your robot doesn't have the good application, your robot is silly. Today we are not able to provide a robot that learns. So you say, hey, robot, let me show you the way I prepare my pancakes, the way I clean my house. It doesn't work that way. So you have to download an application on your robot. And then if you don't have hundreds of applications of your robot, okay, your robot is boring. So that's why at home, today we're not really completely ready to have a robot. But for this application of education, because our robots are an open platform, you can program it and put everything you want on it. For education in master degrees, that's great because people can program and learn computer science and so on with a robot. But then we discovered that even in high school and in kindergarten, the robot can be used for the teacher as a assistance, for instance, to recognize colors, to recognize animals, and so on. So it's someday we discovered that in United States, in a University of Notre Dame, they have been using a robot for education of autistic children. These labs were working on education of this kind of children, and they have been using now the small one because these children are really interested by technology. And when we see the robot, they, I would like to interact with it. And these children who have problem of interaction are very happy to interact with a robot. And in a way, for them, it's easier to interact with a robot than with a human being.
Yeah.
For instance, our robot doesn't have a real face. Eyes and mouth, of course, but not an expressive face. And as you may know, for autistic children, it's very difficult for them to understand a facial expression. Because the robot doesn't have any, it's in a way, it's cool for them. They like it, and they always understand the robot. The robot is very repetitive in a way, and they like it.
Straightforward, yeah.
And then these people understood the way they could use the robot as to give exercises, and then the robot is never bored, so he can play hundreds of times the same exercise. You know, with sometimes autistic children are a little bit repetitive. So, but the robot likes this too because that's what he does better, to be repetitive. And so this kind of application for autistic children have been spread away in many countries. And recently we discovered another way to use our robots for autistic children, maybe for a little older children. And there the researchers were using the robot as a programming tool. And then the children themselves could program the robot. And it's very easy with our robots, for instance, to type something and then the robot say what you've typed. And so we show that to the children, and it was so easy. And also the robot makes motion when he speaks. Makes motion, so it's very expressive.
It's like the easiest way to gamify this learning process.
Exactly.
You just put a robot
and
there.
Then what was very funny when they discovered this, the children, the first thing they programmed was to say bad words, rude words. and they was really insulting themselves together through the robot. And for days, robots are always only saying bad words. And after a while, and children were happy, very happy. And even the teachers were happy, because in a way, it was a way for them to express themselves. And after a while, of course, they are starting to say something more interesting, and then to interact and to say to their parents or to the teachers things that never dared to say before, because there is a robot between them, and then the robot is a way for them to open themselves to the world. And some parents were very impressed the way that the children were opening to the world through the robots.
Huh. I feel like, again, with these fireside chats, we should do it again for like 3 hours or something. But is there any questions from the audience? Because we actually only have a few minutes left already. So yeah, we've got one question right here. If you can speak loudly, I'll repeat it through the mic.
So you mentioned that robots can help elderly people. Can you share some research outcomes, if you have done any? Are the people actually willing to use robots, especially the generation of elderly that we have today or we're going to have in the future? Because, like, I'm thinking about it, I would start using a robot when I'm 70, and that means at least 50 years of this technology not working out very well.
Okay, so the question is, if I understand, is there an issue with adoption in the places where maybe robots can be the most useful, such as the elderly, who are maybe less likely to adopt complex technology? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very good question, and actually it was the first thing we checked.
Mm-hmm.
And so recently we made an experiment where the robot was living with a person 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 1 week. And the robot was quite simple. It was a paper robot with very simple functions. What are the weather forecasts? What is it was in a hospital. And very simple question, access to video, to radio, and so on, and to the agenda. And people were so happy with the robot. Most of them were so happy with the robot because they felt less lonely. In their room, hospital room, when they went out for an exam, for instance, when they come back to the room, they see the robot. It's silly, but it's like someone waiting for them and discussing with them. And they really appreciated his presence, even if the robot was not so efficient and so useful for them. And it's funny because we tried with some younger patients, 20 years, 30 years old patients, and these people were much less interested by the robot because they have their own tablet, their own smartphones, so they have plenty over the way not to feel alone because they don't feel alone with Facebook, with Instagram. But elderly people today, really they don't have this kind of communication. So they were very, very happy with the robot, and they are pushing us. Okay, now we need more functions. So it's very good. It was a very good experience for us because it was not this massive rejection that we were afraid of. And in a big part, I think it's because the robot is nice, is cute, and for people. At the very beginning, when we started to discuss with elderly people about that, we said, okay, we are a young company and we want to develop a robot for you. And we didn't show anything. Said, no, are you crazy? Because in their mind, I don't know if they know Terminator, but robot is something scary, dangerous. It's complicated to use, it's dangerous. You have to be an engineer to control it. So, okay, you say, we're sorry, we made a mistake, but before leaving, we will show you what we've done so far. And then we presented now, the little guy. Wow, he's so cute. What could he do? I would like to have it. My grandchildren will come to see me much more often if I have a robot at home. So really, we changed the meaning, the mindset of people about robotics with our robots. And today it was the very first step we have to climb before going further in developing high technology, a very complex function, artificial intelligence, to do so on. So it was the acceptability was the most important point, and I think we solved it.
Nice. We have time for one more question, if there's one more. No? I don't see any up there either. All right. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you wanted to cover? You mentioned before about the fact that people consider AI or robots dangerous.
Yes, but that's what I said. Today, a robot is a very simple tool, even if it's very complex from a mechatronic point of view and even from a software point of view. But in a way, you put software in it, and then the software will do what it's designed for. And the idea of all these science fiction movies saying, okay, someday the robot will say, oh, I'm not interested anymore in cleaning your toilets, so I will go do something else. It cannot happen. Because, I'm robot manufacturer. If someday my robots say, oh no, I don't want to do what if my customer called me, hey, I asked your robot this morning to clean my toilets, and he said, no, I don't want, because I'm better than this. I have artificial intelligence. So then people will call me and say, okay, give me another one. This one is too clever, so that's why even if we could have such intelligence in the robot, we cannot sell it. It's not useful for humanity, so it's not useful for customers, so nobody will want to have such a robot.
Awesome. Rodolphe, thank you so much. I really
Thank you very
appreciate it, and it was nice to meet you. Thank you, audience.